The North American 1015 was one of the most ambitious and extraordinary experimental aircraft programs ever undertaken in aviation and aerospace history, a pioneering joint effort between NASA, then NACA, the United States Air Force, and the United States Navy, which sought to push the boundaries of human knowledge about flight at the edge of the atmosphere and into the fringes of space, serving as a vital technological bridge between traditional high-speed atmospheric flight and true space travel during the late 1950s and 1960s. And even though its legacy is sometimes overshadowed by more publicly celebrated programs like Project Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and later the Space Shuttle, the X-15 stands as a towering achievement that combined daring engineering, record-breaking performance, and invaluable scientific contributions. The program itself began as an idea in the early 1950s when the rapid evolution of jet aircraft and the emerging field of supersonic aerodynamics encouraged military and research institutions to consider how far flight could be extended beyond the Mach 2 and Mach 3 barriers, leading to the U.S. Air Force and NACA issuing requirements for a research aircraft capable of flying at speeds above Mach 5 and altitudes above 250,000 feet, and North American Aviation eventually won the contract to build the aircraft, designing a sleek, rocket-powered, manned research vehicle that looked radically different from any other aircraft of its time, with a long fuselage, wedge-shaped vertical stabilizer, and short stubby wings designed for hypersonic stability rather than low-speed maneuverability. While inside it carried sophisticated instrumentation and controls meant to gather data about aerodynamics, thermodynamics, pilot physiology, and material stresses at extreme conditions. The X-15 was powered primarily by the Reaction Motors XLR-99 liquid fuel rocket engine, which was capable of producing 57,000 pounds of thrust and could be throttled and restarted in flight, a revolutionary feature at the time. And this engine burned a mixture of liquid oxygen and anhydrous ammonia, giving the plane the raw power necessary to blast beyond Mach 6 and climb into the lower reaches of space. Though during the earliest flights the X-15 used less powerful XLR-11 engines borrowed from the Bell X-1 program until the XLR-99 was ready, because it could not take off from a runway under its own power due to limited fuel capacity. The X-15 was carried aloft under the wing of a modified B-52 Stratofortress mothership, from which it was dropped at altitudes of around 45,000 feet and speeds of about 500 miles per hour before igniting its rocket engine and accelerating to extreme speeds, and once its limited fuel supply was exhausted, usually within 90 to 120 seconds, the aircraft would glide unpowered back to Earth, landing on dry lake beds such as Edwards Air Force Base or other desert runways, in a manner not unlike later Space Shuttle landings. Between 1959 and 1968, 3 X-15 aircraft were built and flew a total of 199 missions, piloted by 12 different men including legendary test pilots such as Scott Crossfield, Neil Armstrong, Joe Walker, Robert White, William Dana, and Michael Adams, each of whom risked their lives in an environment where small mistakes could be catastrophic, and indeed one pilot, Major Michael Adams, lost his life in 1967 when X-15 Flight 191 broke up during re-entry due to a combination of control issues and technical malfunctions, reminding all involved of the razor's edge on which the program operated. Despite such risks, the X-15 achieved extraordinary results, reaching a maximum speed of Mach 6.72, about 4,520 miles per hour, with pilot Pete Knight at the controls in October 1967 and a maximum altitude of 354,200 feet, approximately 67 miles, with Joe Walker in 1963, crossing into space by both international definitions and qualifying several pilots for astronaut wings under U.S. Air Force standards, while also providing invaluable data on hypersonic flight dynamics, aerodynamic heating, materials like Inconel X alloy used for the airframe, and pilot performance under near-space conditions, all of which would inform the design of future spacecraft and re-entry vehicles. In addition to speed and altitude records, the X-15 program tested concepts such as reaction control thrusters for maneuvering in space-like environments where traditional aerodynamic control surfaces were ineffective, thermal protection systems to deal with extreme heating during high Mach flight, advanced flight suits and cockpit instrumentation to protect pilots in near-space conditions, and even carried experimental payloads from NASA and the military that contributed to scientific knowledge in fields such as astronomy, atmospheric physics, and space medicine. The aircraft itself, though appearing relatively simple in shape compared to modern spacecraft, embodied some of the most cutting-edge engineering of its day. With its skin made from nickel-chrome alloy to withstand temperatures exceeding 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit, and its fuselage carefully shaped to balance stability, lift, and drag at speeds far beyond the reach of conventional aircraft, while its small wedge-shaped tail surfaces provided directional stability in the thin air of near space. The lessons learned from X-15 flights directly influenced the development of the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo spacecraft, especially in terms of re-entry aerodynamics and pilot training, and later were instrumental in shaping the design philosophy of the Space Shuttle, which, like the X-15, had to function both as a spacecraft and as an unpowered glider for landing. Furthermore, the X-15 demonstrated that pilots could control a manned craft at hypersonic speeds and altitudes approaching space, dispelling early fears that humans might be incapable of functioning effectively in such regimes, and its onboard data recorders, some of the most advanced of their time, captured terabytes worth of information by modern equivalents, later analyzed to refine computer models of aerodynamics and structural loads. The program also became a crucial training ground for astronauts, with Neil Armstrong in particular gaining invaluable experience in high-speed, high-altitude flight that he would later draw upon as commander of Apollo 11, while other X-15 pilots went on to prominent careers in NASA and the Air Force, shaping the direction of American aerospace efforts for decades. Politically, the program also served as a demonstration of American technological prowess at the height of the Cold War, showing the Soviet Union and the world that the United States was capable of pushing the frontiers of flight into space, even if the X-15 itself was never intended to be an operational space vehicle. Though it ended officially in 1968, the legacy of the X-15 has lived on through its influence on subsequent programs, its place in aerospace museums, and the fact that many of its speed and altitude records remain unmatched by manned winged aircraft to this day, making it not only a symbol of an era when bold experimental flight was still possible but also a key stepping stone toward the modern age of reusable spacecraft and hypersonic vehicles currently being developed in the 21st century. And in the broader story of aviation, the X-15 represents the ultimate expression of the X-plane tradition. Aircraft built not for combat or commercial travel but purely for exploration and the expansion of knowledge, demonstrating the power of human ingenuity, courage, and perseverance when faced with the unknown. Indeed, the program's contributions ranged from engineering data on hypersonic boundary layers and shock waves to practical applications like heat-resistant materials and reaction controls, making it one of the most scientifically productive flight research efforts ever undertaken. And in popular imagination, the black, sleek rocket plane suspended beneath the wing of a giant B-52 bomber, then released to ignite its engine and streak across the sky into the void of space, remains one of the most evocative and inspiring images of the dawn of the space age, ensuring that the NASA USAF X-15 jet will forever hold a central place in the history of both aviation and astronautics.